Stamper to Hamburg. Phase 1 is in progress. I'll report back to you with an update.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Really 007 podcast. I am on my own today, but I have a very special guest with me, and his name has a massive history behind it with the Bond franchise, and there's probably a few myths that have been said over time. It's not quite what everyone thinks, but it is Mr. Richard Stamper. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I saw the Goetz Otto episode. I'm catching up quite late, and I just thought I've got to get in touch just to say hello and correct one or two things, but just to say hello as well, because it's just such a mad, small but mad story.
Yeah, this is crazy. So if people aren't aware, of course, they might be aware of the name Stamper from Tomorrow Never Dies, who is the henchman played by Goetz Otto. And we managed to interview him a couple of years ago, maybe now. That's great that you're listening. You are a Bond fan.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I've got, because I'm from Stoke, I've got my Jack, Tomorrow Never Dies. Sorry, no, what is it? It's No Time to Die. And then I saw, is it Skyfall, where you've got the Q mug.
Yeah.
I got one of these. So I got one of these shipped out to Singapore, which is where I was living at the time, because I thought, well, I'll have one of those, I think.
My word.
There we go. So there's a few bits and bobs, a bit Bondy, but the main story is the key bit, I guess.
Yeah, well, you've been everywhere, and the link originally, I believe, was when you were working at the Landmark Hotel in Hamburg.
No, so it's the Landmark London. Let's think. Before that, I'd worked at Claridge's. Then I moved to the Landmark London. A lady called Janine Lodge was booking in technical people and some of the crew and stars and stuff for GoldenEye.
Right.
So that included Bruce Fierstein, who had written at that point GoldenEye and was obviously over here kind of working on changes or whatever they do during production. So Bruce Fierstein was in and out of the hotel quite a lot. And I was reception manager, front office manager of the Landmark at that point. So I just got to know him a little bit, and he would come and go, and we'd kind of meet him at the front desk with the key and walk him up to the room. And if I was around, we'd have a chat to see what he'd been up to, that kind of thing. Just one day, I think we were in the lift. It must have been going up on one of his visits to the 5th floor, because 568 was one of his favourite rooms. And so that gives you quite a long time to chat, I guess, so that was quite handy. And as is my wont, in a sort of fairly cheeky fashion, I just said, is there any chance, if you do another one, that you can use my name in the next film, if you do another Bond? And that was it, and he just said, yeah, sure. And that was the end of the conversation pretty much. And I didn't bother him again. I just sort of left it. I didn't forget about it really, but I definitely didn't follow up. I didn't sort of chase him up or prompt him again, because I thought that's just rude. So I thought, if you're going to want something, ask, but ask politely. And then if not, just leave it. But he did do it. And then he later said the character was, and I'm not sure if this is the right order, but the character was written out completely, then written back in again. At some point before or after that, it had been a female character that was going to be Stamper.
Wow.
And then it ended up being Richard Stamper, because I think on your podcast with Goetz, he said that it was a South African character or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Which for a German actor makes no sense. I mean, the name Stamper is probably a bit more South African than it is German.
Yeah.
So it always struck me as like, I've got away with it. It sounds quite good that they've kept it. So I was quite pleased when I eventually saw the film that they'd managed to keep it in. It didn't get written out, and it didn't change to a completely German name or something to fit in with Goetz. So it was all a bit weird, but it worked out in the end, and it made my mum very happy.
There's so much to talk about here, right? So first of all,
yeah.
So Pierce, you must have got to, saw him quite a few times. How quick was it? The Landmark, was that as an association?
Let's think. The Landmark was fairly new, and it's in Northwest 1. It's just on the A40, so it's easy to get out of London to Leavesden, Pinewood. So you're kind of on the A40 out of London pretty quickly. And the rooms are very big compared with some rooms in central London. And I think probably because we were new, we were having pretty good competitive rates. So we were getting a lot of EMI business. A lot of pop stars were using the place. And for some reason, we got the Bond business for the filming of GoldenEye. So Ricky Jay, I remember seeing him in the lobby. I think Joe Don Baker probably was around. In '94, they used the hotel to launch the new Bond. So I've looked on the internet. This is the fax sent out to presumably everyone. It says Eon Productions Limited at the top, 7th of June 1994, 11:30 a.m. This is page 2, and it was a cordial invite to meet the new James Bond at the Landmark.
Oh,
But in those days, it was called the Regent London because we'd opened as the Regent, and then in '95 we were bought by the Landmark company instead. So that's when it changed names. So, so he was announced as James Bond in the drawing room of the Regent Hotel, now the Landmark London Hotel, and it says here 12 noon for 12:30. And I've had a look at the hotel website today, and the capacity standing is 300, and there must have been that many, plus all the 300 cameras. It was insane.
The rain has stopped, the sun has come out, it's a bright new day, it's time to clean the slate and start again. Just in case you think I'm going to play Bond with a beard, tomorrow afternoon I'm on a plane with my family to Papua New Guinea to do Robinson Crusoe, so I will be sans beard for Bond.
I was duty manager that day, and I had a radio and I had to follow Pierce around
right.
to kind of keep people away to an extent. People were pretty polite, to be fair. But he went to the toilet, and I stood out in the main corridor just to sort of block the door because people were following him around. And then we took him in through a fire escape. You have to go outside, down in the basement, and then up the outside stairs, in through the glass door. And then he came around, and he was in a dark suit and bearded because he was doing either Swiss Family Robinson or something, or Robinson Crusoe at the time. So he had a beard, but similar to yours at the time. So classy, clearly. And I struck me as quite nervous.
Right.
It didn't occur to me that people would be nervous, but this was massive. I mean, there's press from all over the world there: America, Japan, UK, Europe. It was just absolutely unbelievably busy. So, but he was classy. He was, just got on with the job and did it really well.
It's always very premature to talk about things, how you're going to be different. Like I said, I think it's like a clean slate. There are certain parameters which you have to adhere to, but this is a Bond for the 90s. And I think also it's a time to really try and kind of peel back certain layers of his character and see what lies beneath this man.
He knows what he's doing. He was always an established star at that point. And I'm sure it was a big step up, probably for an actor like that. But, he was handling it really well, and, just sort of keeping quiet and then getting ready to go on and become the James Bond for the next couple of films. So it was quite a busy day, but it was quite fun.
So you were there for the actual launch of Pierce?
Yeah. So yeah, I was in the room for that. Yeah, we had to sort of sneak him on the outside, get him in through the fire exit. So just it's on the southeast corner of the Landmark building. So, but yeah, no, it was okay. It's just weird. I was thinking this is a place of work, and the stars come to you. You're just at work, and they turn up. So it doesn't mean anything special. It means you're on duty, and someone booked them in, and that's it. They just turn up at the door. It's quite fun, I think.
Because that's something we're all looking forward to, hopefully fairly soon. But there will be a new James Bond cast, and there's got to be
exactly
a big launch, and it's a massive event, isn't it? If you think that it'll only be the 7th official James Bond who's ever been cast.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it was big then because there was that 6-year gap between License to Kill and GoldenEye.
That's true. Yeah, there was a huge gap, wasn't there? Yeah. So the interest for something like Bond, I guess it doesn't fade. It's sort of
no.
What other franchise back in those days could take a 6-year gap and then come back and have that level of interest still? I would say probably Bond is pretty much the only one, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's because it's such a big franchise. Is it #1 franchise ever or not?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, sometimes
It's up the top,
maybe
isn't it?
maybe the Avengers these days, but with
Okay, yeah.
Action, I'm sure it will be by far the biggest.
Yeah.
Yes. So who else was there then at the launch with the
At the
producer?
launch, you can see there's a bit on CNN, but it was Cubby Broccoli was there, and who is the
Was Michael G. Wilson, was he there?
he might have been. Who's his wife? I can't remember her name. She's the
Well, Cubby's daughter.
oh,
Well,
Cubby's daughter. Okay,
yeah,
I think Cubby was there. She was on one side of him. I'm pretty sure. I don't
yeah,
know who else was there. I might not have realised who was who in those days.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And that was before we knew who these people were and what characters they were, and
yeah, exactly. So, but I wouldn't have known. I think I would have recognised Cubby Broccoli if he'd walked
yeah,
past me, but I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known his daughter necessarily, and I think Michael Wilson I would know now,
yeah.
but I wouldn't have recognised back in those days either. I don't think.
That's wonderful. So there's yeah, and then did you say you've met him a few other times, Pierce, other than that day?
No, that was it. I mean, I've met up with Bruce Fierstein, the writer. I was travelling in '98 in LA, and I went to his house, and we just went for a stroll with his kids and stuff around the area. And then him and his wife took me out for dinner in New York in 2000, something like that, I think. And I've not been in touch since then, really. So we're not close pals. But I've never seen Piers since then. That was just looking after him. He wouldn't have a clue who I was at all. You know, why would he?
Yeah,
So it's just these things happen for very brief minutes. You meet someone in passing, quick chat, and they're gone, and that's that. But it's quite interesting and stays with you as well. I think it's quite a memorable thing.
that makes it even more extraordinary that this is back in '94 that he was.
Yeah,
And then you have to wait. Well, 3 years later, Pierce obviously remembered you and your name and passed it on.
well, yeah, he'll know the name. Yeah, I mean, and when Gertz checked in at the hotel, the reception staff came and got me from the office at the back, and so I went round. It's just this massive German guy standing there with a massive smile. And I was like, whoa, because I don't know how tall he is, but he is absolutely huge. And he was as wide as he was tall. You know, it's just he was obviously been working out for the part or whatever. But I mean, he was just absolutely gigantic. But the photo he gave me, I've got it. Obviously, I've dumped it down here. So the signed photo he gave me shows him, you know, in character as it were. But in person, he's just got this. He had a massive smile and was just like, "Oh, pleased to meet you," all this kind of thing. So it was kind of nice and a huge contrast to the later character. You see them later, and you think, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that's called acting." You know, he can be nasty, so that was pretty good.
So which hotel was this, and at what stage in the filming was this?
So Bruce, I would have met in '90. I don't know when they filmed GoldenEye because that's when I met Bruce. So whenever GoldenEye was in production.
94, 95, I think.
Okay, so I'd have met Bruce 94, 95 and had that conversation with him. And then production for Tomorrow Never Dies would have been what, 95, 96, I guess. So that's when I would have met Gertz at the hotel. But I was traveling and I didn't get to see the film until '98 when I was in Los Angeles. I was every country I went to on this massive trip had just stopped showing the film.
Right.
So it was an absolute nightmare because I was trying to get to see it and and hear it and whatever. And my mum was telling me, yeah, people keep ringing up and saying, is that why is he called Stamper? So she was thrilled early on, but I had no evidence that it was actually happening till I got to LA and I could finally get into a house with a DVD and watch it or a video, whatever it was. So it was quite fun.
That's just amazing.
Mr. Stamper, I'm having fun with my headlines. I need to know the exact number of survivors. Now, I'm late for a meeting. Make sure you use the right kind of ammunition.
Yes, sir.
Delicious.
We didn't know about the Richard Stamper connection, because I don't know whether officially in casting thing, I think it is just Mr. Stamper. I think it was Gert who obviously knew the connection.
Yeah.
And he says on the script, certainly at one stage, it was Richard Stamper.
Yeah. Well, that's Bruce, following through on his promise. I mean, that was just bonkers, really. Just literally one conversation in a lift, just trying my luck, because why not? And then let's think another trying my luck moment was Michael Caton-Jones was in the hotel for some movie. I can't remember what.
Yeah, he's a director.
So
Yeah.
he's done
Brosnan.
Memphis Belle. He did the Jackal with
Cool.
Bruce Willis and so on. So my name's in the credits of the Jackal as well.
Right. Okay.
Because we shrank a tracksuit top that was one of his favourites, and I got somebody in Canada to make a new one and ship it over. So that's what I'm saying. It's just you've just got to do little things or be in the right place at the right time, and these sort of
Yeah.
slightly ludicrous things happen. You know, c'est la vie, or I don't know what you call it. That's just the way it goes sometimes. So, and it's not skill; it's just place and time. That's all it is. You know, there's nothing else to it.
You've got to be the bold enough to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, just do it politely, and you know, and if it's not the right moment, just don't do it because it's obviously going to get you in trouble or it just come across as rude. But if they look like they're receptive or if they've been polite and you've built up a relationship, then why not?
Yeah.
You know, just give it a go, but don't push your luck because it's just it's just rude.
That's it. It's just extraordinary, and I guess that that period of Bond was the one we're most associated with because we were just maybe like 12, 13 when it came out. So that was our first Bond we could see at the cinema.
Right. Okay.
I do remember watching Tomorrow Never Dies vividly with my brothers, and it's just amazing because you had GoldenEye was a big weight, and we were like, wow, this is incredible. And then they're going to make another one, and it was being written on the hoof, really, wasn't it? I know Bruce and it was still whilst filming and.
There were stories that it was quite a rough ride. I think.
Yeah.
I haven't sort of studied the background. I think someone's written a book about it as well about how rough it was. But I didn't see any of that. You know, I didn't see Bruce coming back stressed out. If any, none of that. I didn't really see that. But I guess it must happen in movies. And I don't know why it was like that. Maybe it was just things weren't working and they had to change it, or it's something that has to change at the last minute.
You see how skilled these people are, don't you? You can imagine the pressure of a Bond film. They've got less than a year to film it, edit it, write it, and yet.
But a scene's not working, and you're halfway down a building on the outside, in Bangkok doing a massive stunt, and it's like the dialogue isn't working, and it's like, okay, we need it for tomorrow. I think I have heard or read somewhere that they were doing stuff overnight and then just doing the lines they'd just written the next day. And that can't be, I don't know, it can't be sustainable, but maybe for short bursts you can get away with it. But I would say they got away with it on Tomorrow Never Dies. It's a fun film.
It is a fun film. It's probably the last by the numbers Bond film, where there isn't sort of some personal thing. It's just throw it on. Yeah. It's an afternoon bank holiday James Bond film, which is great.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, you've got the car, you've got the gadgets, you've got missiles, you've got a couple of bad guys, you've got some good scenery, and out in Bangkok standing in for so it's a nice looking film, and it's fun. Pierce Brosnan does a great job. Proper acting, and there's a lot of action, some big stunts. So you can't really complain, I don't think.
No,
it's a good fun film.
One of our favourites, certainly to throw on.
Good. That's really nice. Yeah.
Your name though, Richard Stamper. I mean, growing up, you must have. Have you had comments about it?
Yeah, there was a guy once at school. He just said, "So why are you called Stamper?" And I said, "It's my name." And that was it. I mean, what can you do? So I've had Stamper, Thumper, Stamps, Stampede. At work now in education, I get called Stamps. So there's just whatever. It's fine. Oh, who cares? It's quite nice, I think. So it's a nice variable name, I suspect. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, my surname is Pickup, which is really unusual. And
well, there you go.
You think that most people would have made fun of it growing up, but no. I had more people make fun of Thomas the Tank Engine, because Thomas isn't that. Sure, it's prevalent.
That's good legacy. That's okay.
It's a good one, yeah. To be fair.
Yeah, that's okay.
But that's obviously the name has come to fruition in the best possible way, and a very memorable character too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was so pleased when it happened. I didn't think it would happen at all, so I was pretty pleased when it happened. Because again, you can't really take that away. Again, it's a sort of that's it. It's permanent. Bond is a permanent franchise. It's something that will be there forever, which is quite nice. I think I'm pretty proud of it, really. But again, just stressing is time, place, and being polite.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good lesson for everybody, I guess, is just, have a go, why not? Because the moment will pass, but just don't make people fed up about it. So, otherwise it will backfire spectacularly, no doubt.
Yes.
So,
Hopefully not. You
yeah.
also mentioned some other people, of course, you saw at the hotel. One of the films you said to us was Interview with a Vampire.
I guess it was filmed, maybe it was Pinewood, and it's the same production people. I don't know if it was Janine Lodge who was booking in them as well. But so Tom Cruise at the time was married to Nicole Kidman, and they were
Yes.
staying up the road in Regent's Park. They didn't stay in the hotel. Nicole's parents stayed. Kirsten Dunst stayed with her parents because she was about 12 or 13 at the time. Brad Pitt stayed. Banderas was there. So Banderas came down to reception one day with his nails on. I think he had nails done on one hand. And he was like, this is so difficult, it's so awkward. And he was kind of like drumming them on the marble. And it was just, this clattering sound of this sort of deadly fingernails or whatever. So, and then Brad Pitt was there. So his stuntman, Mark Dalton, was in as well. And the two of them came in one night. I think they'd just come back from skiing in Scotland or something equally implausible. But so I said, "Welcome back, Mr. Pitt," and he said, "Call me Brad." So I said, "Oh, okay, welcome back, Brad." And I said, "So what shall I call him?" Mark Dalton. And he said, "Call him whatever you like." So I was a bit rude. But also they had tiny rooms in those days as well, because Brad Pitt was a star, but not a massive star.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were in either the 57 or 58 series of rooms, which are not massive. They're only about 28 square meters at the Landmark. And these days, they'd be presidential suite or something like that, I guess. And then in the previous hotel, I took Keanu Reeves up to a single room, 131. A bit indiscreet, but there we go. And it's just a regular single room. But he was just a nice guy. And you're taking a guest up to the room, they're tired, they've been on a long flight. They're not maybe in the mood to talk, maybe not. So light chit chat. See if they need anything to kind of help them settle in, and then just leave them to it. That's all it is, really.
Because it's your job, you're less likely to be a sort of fanboy and go, wow,
Yeah, you shouldn't really.
Yeah.
I think I would try and ask people something relatively normal. What brings you to town?
Yeah.
Are you going to have, time to sort of have time off or see friends, or is it just busy? So it's, I don't know, just to try and relax them. And if you pick up they're not in the mood, you just walk in front of them, don't even speak to them necessarily. Open the door, go in, show them around a little bit, ask them if they need any room service or something like that, and then leave the keys somewhere and get out and leave them to it. Because especially at the sort of swanky end of the market, you don't want to be mucking about. They're paying big money, or the studio are paying big money, and they want to be left alone and just do their own thing and chill out and relax and stuff. And some of them are friendlier than others, and some of them are just quite quiet, and they just want to get on with it and settle in, go to sleep, or try and get over jet lag or whatever.
Yeah.
But you've got to try and read them as carefully as you can. And if you know them from a previous visit, you can have a chat. They might remember you vaguely, things like that. So that's quite nice. So, the Landmark, Celine Dion would come quite frequently.
Amazing.
Meatloaf, here we go. There's a picture of me and Meatloaf playing Yahtzee on a tour bus. So.
Oh my word.
So, I mean, how bonkers is that? So they kept saying, "Come on tour with us." And I was like, why? What are you talking about? So, and they kept asking on every visit, because this was in his sort of second heyday, 93, 94, with Do Anything for Love. So he was on Top of the Pops kind of every week for like 8 weeks or something.
Yeah, it was number one.
So he would fly home, fly back in, fly home, fly back in. So they took me up to Top of the Pops a couple of times. Cher was in the next changing room doing some Elvis thing, and fake beard and all this malarkey.
Oh yeah.
So that was the same Top of the Pops, I think. She walked past, and there was a guy who did some space song, and he was a bit of a one-hit wonder, I think.
Yeah, Spaceman, Babylon Zoo.
There we go. Yeah. So he walked past Meatloaf, and Meatloaf said, "Hi, how you doing?" And this guy said, "Hi, I'm going to be you," or something like that, and just walked off. And Meatloaf was like, "What was that?" just say hello. What do you mean you're going to be me? So it was just weird, and had a bit of a one-hit wonder written all over it. But it was I quite liked the song, to be fair.
Yes,
it was a good song. And the guy, again, he's this kid or whoever's going to be on Top of the Pops. It's a big deal, You know, so they're nervous, they're freaking out. The Meatloaf is talking to them, and it's like, "Ugh." You know, it's not normal, I guess. So there we go.
That's great.
So yeah, you just be, you know, be nice and be yourself, and you know, I don't know, be a little bit silly, a little bit amusing, or very very serious, depending what's required, I guess. So something like that, I think.
A life less ordinary, Richard. That's incredible.
It's a series of 10-second incidents, I guess. It's not, you know, it doesn't amount to much particularly, but if you add it all up, it's quite amusing and not particularly significant, but it's memorable for me. Nice little stories to tell people, and you know, good memories for me. I quite like having these things that have happened, and you can just look back and go, I can't believe I've done that. You know, I've been on a tour bus with Meatloaf, for God's sake. It's nuts. It's completely illogical, you know. And we got him. There's another pic here I've printed out. So we got him to do softball in the park with some staff. So we got a softball team together, and we took him off to Hyde Park and we played softball because he just said, "Can you get me a softball team together?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll talk to the hotel team." And they said, "Yeah, of course, Meatloaf can come along and join us." So that was quite fun. So things like that, you know, they're just regular people, you know. Meatloaf's bill when he first stayed was 1,800 quid. So I took £600 off the bill because he'd been playing fantasy baseball manager and didn't realise he was racking up this massive bill. The financial controller went nuts because I'd taken £600 off the bill, but then obviously they kept coming back again and again and again. So overall, you're okay. But again, you know, be nice. If you can cut people some slack, then that's a good thing, and it's not real money anyway; it's profit. So
yeah, that's great advice for anyone, particularly in like the service industry. I think that's
yeah,
good.
you've got to be nice. And if you know, we're not perfect as well. We used to get things wrong, so you try and fix it. I think when Ricky Jay was in the lobby, he was complaining we hadn't fixed his room or something like that. You know, and he'd come back from the Leavesden airfield or wherever it was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or you know, some long 14-hour shoot or whatever, and he was fed up, and the hotel hadn't cleaned his room up, and it was like, well, that's, you know, we should have done that, and you've got every right to complain, you know. So, and again, as long as they don't go nuts, we'll react as fast as we can and fix everything as much as we can. You know, we don't want to leave anybody unhappy.
And I'm telling you, so many of our listeners, the Bond fans, will be delighted to hear these sort of nuggets. Because there's no way that people would encounter them in normal life. And, you know, in terms of books about Bond, you're not going to find sort of really behind the scenes info like this. So it's amazing that you heard the episode and you heard Guts talking about it, and that prompted you to share your amazing stories with us. So thank you, Rich.
Yeah, no, I just thought I had to reach out because I saw him and I just thought, well, and he said I was South African and I'm not. I'm half Welsh,
definitely
half
not.
English. You know, so I thought, well, that'll be I can sort of hang it on that, and I can just say, I'm not South African, but the rest of it is okay. The rest of it is true. That's for sure. So
the truth is stranger than fiction, as they say.
Definitely, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you, Richard, for joining us. And
you're very welcome.
Yeah, like I say, everyone's going to love this, and we will tell Gus about it. We will pass this on to him.
Yeah, do. Yeah.
I owe you an unpleasant death, Mr. Bond.